Canada by watching me on Press TV. It's a double whammy, watching me and watching me on Press TV. What happened to Canada, the kinder, gentler North American state? How did it become virtually an embassy of Israel? And how did it become so violently opposed to, for example, Iran, that it's ahead of even the United States in its aggression?
Well, it's very much a function of the degree to which U.S. finance, U.S. television and culture, U.S. ownership of the economy, of commanding heights of the economy. The U.S. controls everything of real value going forward into the future. It controls everything of material capital value in Canada to an increasing degree. And the periods of economic prosperity are a period in which this accelerates, and the periods of economic downturn are the periods in which this accelerates more slowly. But this eventually has fed into the political system, and we have a phenomena like the Harper government. And I don't think it will change a lot if the Liberals come in after the Conservatives, because they're also seeking American support, American propping up. So that is a problem with the political system in Canada, but it doesn't affect. It's not something that affects the base of the society on a question like this gun violence issue.
Okay, Gary, we better press on because I've got lots of calls from around the world. But it really is a pleasure talking to you. Please be a regular correspondent for us from there. Muhammad Ali, welcome to the show. Muhammad?
Hi, George.
Yes.
I want to talk about gun control.
Go ahead.
In America.
Go ahead.
In my idea, the only reason for having guns in one society is a lack of security. America all the time claims that is a democratic country and asks countries to be free. I don't understand how a country with this bloodshed and the criminal activities want to bring peace for the other countries.
They'd be better paying attention to their own problems at home, no? They'd be better paying attention to their own difficulties.
My friend is here. He wants to talk to you, please.
Okay.
Hi, George.
All right. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Hi, George. And I want to talk about the gun control in the U.S.
Go ahead.
You know that the U.S. is face a tough economic problem these days. I think the government in the U.S. want to use of this weapon industry to solve this problem. You know, the U.S. could earn a lot of money in the Iraq and Afghanistan war. And survey show us that in the 2008, the U.S. earned $2.5 trillion by sale of the guns, and in the 2012, the U.S. earned about $3.5 trillion. And you know that American people, CNN, yesterday showed the program that the American people rush to the gun store because they fear the limitation about the government some, for example, semi-automatic weapon.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'd be astounded if those figures were true. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on that. I've no doubt that the US sells a lot of weapons around the world, but I very much doubt if it runs into $2 and $3 trillion worth. But thanks for the call, a double call really, from Nigeria. Ali's on the line from Tehran on the same subject, US gun control. Ali, welcome to the show. Awoni's back from Ghana. Awoni, go ahead. No, he's not. Sorry about this. Talking about gun crime in the United States. We were talking to Gary in Canada about the extraordinary fact that Canadians actually own even more guns than the people in the United States. And there are hundreds of millions of weapons in the United States in private hands. The American Constitution gives every citizen the right to bear arms. More, actually, the right to form a militia and bear arms. But of course, that's only in theory. in practice, if anyone did try to set up a militia and did threaten to use their privately held weapons against the power of the state, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. The National Guard, the Marine Corps, and goodness knows what else would be moved into action to stop them. So for those who think themselves progressives, who support American gun law as it stands at the moment, which is basically that you can buy a gun just as easily as you can buy a hat in almost any high street in any town or city in the country, those who think they're being progressive by supporting that constitutional provision are making a big mistake, in my opinion. We're talking about Afghanistan. The British have just announced an even earlier pullout from Afghanistan than the last pullout that they announced, which itself was earlier than the planned pullout. Mind you, they've been there for 11 years. Jack Straw, on the floor of the House, look it up on Hansard, was in the middle of boasting how the British Army would be back for Christmas, and I rose to say to him, you will not be back for Christmas. You will not be back 10 Christmases hence. And they all laughed. Mr. Straw encouraged the whole House to laugh at me. Oh, how they laughed. But 11 years later, we're still there, and our soldiers are still being killed, and our soldiers are still killing others, and we don't even count the people that we kill. We imagine the Afghan mothers don't weep for the death of their children as mothers in Connecticut weep. Just the day after the president spoke in Connecticut, 10 young children in Afghanistan were blown to pieces, torn apart. Well, first of all, they tried to say that it was an old landmine laid in the previous Afghan war. Firstly, I don't even know if that's true. How can we believe it's true? Because it was on Sky News or on Fox News? I'd need a lot of convincing that these 10 children were killed by an old landmine. But secondly, even if they were killed by an old landmine, who was responsible for the old war in Afghanistan? Who gave bin Laden the money and the weapons? Who sent these extremist fanatics into Afghanistan and gave them everything that they needed in order to fight what they called their holy war? You guessed it right, the United States of America. Bernard wanted to talk about US shootings, and of course that was prompted by the extraordinary, vicious evil that was visited upon 2 classrooms of small children who were systematically eliminated by a man with several automatic weapons. And brave teachers who tried to save the children were killed too. The president of Iran, President Ahmadinejad, actually communicated his condolences to the United States. I don't know if it would have been reciprocated, because of course the US is giving money to terrorists in Iran right now. The US is helping Israel kill children in Palestine right now. The US is supporting the killing of children in Syria right now. The US has invaded 50 countries since the Second World War. Lots of children were killed there. They killed 1 million Iraqis. Many of them were women, and many of them were children. They're still occupying Afghanistan, and they've killed an uncountable number of Afghans. Many of them were women, many of them were children. I could go on. I could go on, believe me. For the rest of this night, I could go on, believe me, about this gigantic double standard where the blood of some people is infinitely more valuable than the blood of other people. I know it's not a conscious thing, maybe not even in President Obama's case. I'm sure he doesn't sit down and think like that consciously. Well, children in Connecticut being killed by weapons is bad, but children in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Iraq or Palestine or Lebanon or Syria, etc., is good. I'm sure it does not. But that's not the point. The point is that's what's happening, and he is in charge. He and the US and UK media, which give endless, and I mean endless, endless coverage of the killing of 20 children in the United States, such that would bring a tear to a glass eye, would bring a tear out of a stone. So heartbreaking is the footage. But they cannot understand that Afghan mothers, Arab mothers, Pakistani mothers weep just the same for the murder of their children, blown up, shot down, destroyed, their lives ruined. This is the problem, that the UK, US media and the political class whose echo chamber they are simply unable to grasp this duality, that for most people in the world, the reality of American gun problems is US guns killing them, US guns in the hands of others killing them, or US guns in US hands killing them. This is the problem that we have to face. And there's no sign that the US or UK media or their political class are ready to face it.